This is the newest ready-to-fly drone kit from Emax, and if you want to learn how to fly a drone, there's all kind of things that you're going to need to get, and you're going to have to make sure that they all work together. If you think about if you wanted to play a video game, it's understandable why an Xbox controller won't work on your PlayStation and why a PlayStation game won't work on your Nintendo Switch. But when it comes to assembling an FPV drone kit, it's hard to understand what type of controller connects to what type of drone. But Emax takes all of that guesswork away from you, because inside this kit, they literally have every single piece. There's a tiny drone right here, the Emax Nano Scout. That comes with a controller or radio. In FPV, they both mean the same thing. A pair of FPV goggles that the screen comes off and also doubles as an FPV monitor. And that way you can see the value that you're getting. I'll also cover, when we talk about each piece, is this something that you're going to use long-term or not? First, let's start with the drone itself. This is Emax's Nano Scout. Now, Emax is famous for making a lot of tiny bind and fly kits. Most notably is the Emax Tiny Hawk, which is a little bit bigger than this. For this round, they've gone just a little bit smaller, but kept a nice size motor. In fact, the motors on the Nano Scout are actually one of the smallest motors that have dual bearings in there, meaning they're going to last a little bit longer and run a little bit smoother. Now, this is a slightly heavier whoop formula for 2024, but when you have this amount of power available on tap, the extra weight really doesn't matter. In fact, it's going to make it a little bit easier to fly outdoors on a windy day. Now, if we take the battery off, you can see underneath that you have your video transmitter. On the bottom, your camera, which is the Runcam Nano 3, up on the top with an adjustable angle. You can keep it flatter for going slow if you're a beginner, or you can tilt it a little bit further up if you'd like to go racing around your house or a park. It has Emax's nice all-in-one flight controller that has your electronic speed controller and flight controller all built into one, a USB-C connector on the top to be able to connect to change any of the programming in Betaflight for this. It has a nice Emax 3-bladed prop on top, your video antenna right here at the back, and then their new Emax connector right here, and a couple of these batteries. These are 320 mAh. Now, all the rage this year is all the companies making race-worthy tiny whoop crafts. Now, these race-worthy crafts come in closer to 16 to 17 grams, while the Nano Scout comes in at about 23 grams. Now, that does matter if you want to take podium in a racing competition, but like I said, for a beginner, it really doesn't matter. This type of formula is probably a little bit easier to learn on. You can see that the frame is pretty strong, so it'll be able to take a hit into the wall, and at only 23 grams, it's still not going to risk messing up your walls or your TV if you run into them. Now, I can't guarantee you that if you fly this into your wife's hair, you're not going to be sleeping on the couch. So be careful of that. Same thing if you have any long-haired pets or kids that you actually like. If you move over to the pouch, you have all of the manuals and your extra battery, a little set of instructions on how to connect this to another radio, your antennas that are going to be going for the goggles, and any other quick start guide, QR code things right here. You have a tiny little toolkit on there for making any type of repairs or modifications, a USB-C cable to be able to charge the controller, and then here's a regular USB cable that you're going to use to charge the goggle. The radio itself is Emax's Express LRS version of their popular small radio. This lies somewhere between what I would call toy grade and hobby grade. What I really like that Emax does is it labels all of the switches on what they do. This one is your arm switch. This one is beginner mode, regular mode, full manual control mode, a beeper, and flip over after crash mode or turtle mode. And it's all labeled for you. It comes with an 18650 cell that's going to be used to power this radio, and it turns on at the push of a button. The goggles themselves, like we showed, have a 3-way head strap, one that goes above on the top of the head to keep everything nice and stiff. What you would do if you're ready to pull them out is the lens adjustment goes to 3 different positions on the side, which you will adjust based on your vision. You're going to move it to where it feels comfortable in focus. Once you have that, you just put them in and you're ready to go flying. Look at that. This entire kit costs $259. Now, why is that notable? Well, a premium set of analog goggles that you might use for racing alone is going to cost $500. This is my daily driver, the Radio Master Boxer with upgraded gimbals that costs about $250. This single piece costs the same amount as all this kit. This racing tiny whoop that I typically would go to a competition with cost from 533 about $130, $150. And so you can see that by the time you assemble all of these things together, you're going to be way above the price of this. If this is a new hobby for you, there's a couple things that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to assemble your kit, then you're going to need to learn how to fly, and that's going to take a while. Now, this hobby isn't for everyone, so if you can learn how to fly for only $259, then decide if this is something for you and double down and start putting together your kit. Now, what are the things that are going to be useful for you moving forward? This can be used with any combination. So the drone is going to be easily carried forward. You can use this for years. The goggles, you're going to want to upgrade to a more premium set of goggles, but this is still very useful. You can take this off, keep it in your pack as a field monitor. I can't tell you how many times I've been flying at a park or something and people have come and wanted to check it out and know what's going on. If you're flying with your goggles and you can hand them this to see the view that you're seeing while you're flying around the track, it's all the difference in the world between somebody becoming a Karen and complaining or showing somebody something really cool that they can go home and tell their family about over dinner. So always have a field monitor with you as soon as you can to be a good ambassador of FPV. So that's something that's going to be able to stay with you for the life of this entire hobby. As you can see, all I do is power this up and then I can see the image that is through this drone as soon as I plug in the battery. Now, how easy is it to get this thing flying? I just plugged this thing in and I'm going to turn on the radio right now. I'm going to put this tiny drone right here and let's just see what happens whenever I hit the arm switch. You can see right there, it's armed. Literally in 2 seconds, you could be flying. All you do is plug this battery into the drone, turn this radio on, and you're ready to fly with the pre-arm switch. Now, if I were to assemble my own kit, I would have to program each switch on this radio. Then I would have to plug this drone into a computer, download the Betaflight software, make sure that my arm switch is assigned to the arm switch on the drone. There's a whole lot of steps you have to do in order to do what I just did in about 5 seconds. So that's the benefit of going with a kit like this. The radio itself, that's going to be one of the first things that you're going to want to upgrade if you do decide to stick with this hobby, but that's okay. Then you can hand off the kit to someone else. So let's total the things that are going to be worth it. A typical drone of this size would cost you about $100. Typical goggles of this size would cost you about $100. And there you're at $200 already. So then you essentially get the controller, the charger, the tools, the case, all for a very reasonable price. If I wanted to assemble a kit like this with gear that I would want to keep permanently, I'd be looking at probably closer to $1,000. So if you're the buy once kind of person, that you want to buy everything that's at the top tier, you're going to want to be future proof, prepare to spend about $1,000. Or if you're the dip your toe kind of a person, you can spend $260 and you'll still have a couple of pieces of gear that are going to be with you well into the development of this hobby. We'll put some DVR of this thing flying around the house, but I gotta say, when it comes to making the process easy, something as complex as buying a parts list, getting it connected to each other, and taking your first flight can take weeks, months, and people resort to the Facebook groups just almost devastated about all the money that they've spent and they still haven't been able to fly their first minute. You can do it this way in about 10 seconds. Thanks, guys.